today is Urvashi Prasad, director at NITI Aayog. We are going to ask her about a book being published by her, a book very, very close to her heart as it is written by her departed father, former 1981 batch UP Cadre IAS officer Naresh Nandan Prasad, who's also worked at the United Nations and World Intellectual Property Organization for around 14 years. Let's get to know more about him from his daughter. Welcome to our show.
Thank
About
you.
your father was a renowned and much respected bureaucrat. Tell us about his bureaucratic journey and why he is known as an international bureaucrat.
My father, he was an Indian Administrative Service officer, 81 batch, as you mentioned. But he was a rare officer in that he had the opportunity to serve in 3 different states across India. So he served in Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. And he was in the IAS for about 31 years. And then he's spent another 14 years or so, as you mentioned, in the United Nations. So he's actually a very rare Indian civil servant in the sense that he not only had diverse experience across India in administration, in how politics and bureaucracy interface, but also at the international level, in a very, very complicated system like the United Nations, where there is politics of a very different level altogether. So he's basically been a bureaucrat, a civil servant who's had tremendous and very, very varied experiences, and those are the experiences that he has captured in this book.
You have published his memoir as a book. What does the title, The Small Cogs in the Wheel, signifies and who chose it?
Yeah, so these are his words. These are his own words. And, it's basically saying that, each civil servant is really only a small cog in this very large wheel that is the Indian state. And the Indian administrative machinery is a very, very large and complex wheel, and each civil servant is really a small cog in that, but yet a very significant and a very important cog, because each civil servant has the opportunity to really make a difference, to the people that he or she is serving. And so that is really what the title signifies, that on the one hand, you are just one small cog in this large wheel, but on the other hand, there's so much that you can actually do and influence and achieve through your position, which is what he's captured in the book. And so therefore you also have a very, very important and influential role to play.
When did you start writing it and how long did it take?
So my father is an exceptional, writer, exceptional public speaker. So writing, came very, very easily to him. Words came very easily to him. Storytelling came very easily to him. In fact, when you will read the book, you will see that it's not written in a preachy, style at all. He's not trying to preach to anyone. He's not trying to, teach you any lessons. I mean, you do learn a lot of lessons from the experiences he narrates, but that is sort of a byproduct. That is not the tone and tenor of the book. The book is written in a very light-hearted, storytelling, engaging way, where a variety of audiences can actually engage with it and relate to it. It's not just meant for civil servants. It's meant for a very wide range of audiences. So he typed out this book entirely on his mobile phone, which is the incredible thing. He used to keep writing Yeah, he used to keep writing bits and pieces on his phone and then emailing them to himself, and that's how, the chapters kept adding up, and before we knew, it was a full book. He wrote it during the pandemic period, during COVID-19. When he was still in Geneva, he was still working with the World Intellectual Property Organization. But obviously, during the pandemic, they were spending a lot more time at home, and there were lockdowns, etc. So he used that period to actually write out this book. So it is pretty incredible because he did it entirely himself, and on his mobile phone. But it's not surprising for me because and for those who know him, because he was always a very natural storyteller.
Is it only about his bureaucratic journey, or it gives glimpses from his personal life as well?
Yeah, so this is, it's mostly his memoirs in the sense, of his professional, journey. But he's woven in, many aspects of his personal life, with the professional, because, ultimately for a civil servant, an international civil servant like him, the personal life, also is has many different kinds of dimensions, and in his case, his wife, my mother, she also comes from the Indian Administrative Service. So he also talks about the whole journey of how he met her, actually through the services, and then how their experiences have been as a couple, in the Indian Administrative Service. And I think that is also a very fascinating part of the book. And then, of course, he does talk about me, and various other people who played an important role in his personal life. So I think, because my dad was always somebody who was, he was very much at heart a family man, somebody who really put his friends and family, at a very, very high pedestal. So even as he focuses on and narrates his professional journey, there is a lot of the personal elements which are woven into it.
Every time you go through the pages, they must be evoking a lot of nostalgic memories. Must be a very emotional journey for you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because now that, especially now that the book is going to be released and it's going to go out to the world, I would have obviously wanted him to be here. So it is definitely a very emotional moment for me. But I think at the same time, the way I look at it is that he had an absolutely incredible life, professionally, personally, and he has captured that in this book, and this is the time when the whole world will have the opportunity to know about his incredible life. So I also look at it, in that way. That is actually the perspective that he would have wanted me to take, because he was the most positive, the most optimistic, uh, cheerful person, the most joyous person I have ever known. So I think he would have wanted me to, use the same lens at a time when his story is going to go out to the whole world. So that's how I would like to look at it. But obviously, as a daughter, for me, it is obviously a very, very, emotional thing as well.
Any particular chapter or part of the book that tugs at your heartstrings more?
Well, I think biased about the part where he's written about me, and he's written how 1986 was the most special year of his life because that is when his daughter was born. And he's written about how much he cherishes the relationship that he has with his daughter. So I think that for me is obviously something which is very close to my heart. Those are words that I read again and again, because that's really, it really kind of encapsulates the absolutely tremendous bond that I share with him. But also, I think the times where, when he's written about his journey with my mother, also as an Indian civil servant, and how the two of them sort of maneuvered through their professional and personal lives. They often faced very tricky and complicated situations together as a couple. Personally, very very ones which I really cherish.
Anything else you want to say about the book or maybe your departed father?
Yeah, I mean, I would just I'm sure people would have heard of a lot of books of civil servants. This is not the first book that a civil servant is writing, but I think what sets the book apart uh, is, like I said, it's very engaging storytelling style. He's very vividly narrated, a lot of incidents which are of interest not just to civil servants. Yeah, so I think this is obviously not like it's just the first book that a civil servant is writing. Civil servants have written many books in the past, but I think what sets this apart is, like I said, it's very engaging storytelling narrative. He's very vividly described incidents, major incidents in India's history, like the assassination of Mrs. Gandhi, the demolition of the Babri Masjid. So there's the reforms of 1991, the economic liberalization. So he has vividly described many major episodes in India's history and politics, which I think would interest a much wider audience. So whether you are a student, whether you are an aspirant, a serving civil servant, just somebody interested in India's history, politics, bureaucracy, international diplomacy. Like I said, there's a lot on international diplomacy and politics at the highest level. I think this book will appeal to any of you and all of you. So it's really I think a book which will have a very wide kind of reader base, and in at the same time it's very light-hearted. It's very enjoyable read. It's a very breezy read. It doesn't ever feel preachy or like he's trying to teach you some lessons or anything like that. So yeah, so I think that's what I would say, that I would encourage everyone to really get a copy and read the book, and do reach out to me and share your feedback, because he would love to hear feedback. And so at this point, I am his agent here. So yeah, I mean, do reach out to me, share your opinions on the book, and I'm sure you will enjoy reading it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was Urvashi Prasad, NITI Aayog's director, telling us about her father, former IAS officer Naresh Nandan Prasad. The book is already out for buying. Do read it to know what the small cogs in the wheel is all about.